Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Unfortunately, we got some bad news here today, Commanders Nation, as multiple key starters for the Washington Commanders will be out for Sunday's game versus the Atlanta Falcons. Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, probably your two most important pieces on offense this year, won't be playing on Sunday, and then also Noah Brown and John Bates are expected to miss yet another week. We're going to be talking about what these injuries mean for the Washington Commanders this weekend, how it affects their game plan, and then also talk about Marcus Mariota getting another opportunity this time to play against the team that really discarded him, and he's really got some bad blood with the Atlanta Falcons in his old home stadium. So really a significant game on Sunday for Marcus. And then also we got a pretty significant injury update in Atlanta surrounding a key defensive player. So make sure you guys stick around to see who that is. But make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We will be going live at around kickoff time for our live watch party. Around 1 p.m. Eastern is when we'll be going live for this football game. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join us on Sunday for our watch party. Now, like I said, guys, Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Noah Brown, and John Bates, some very significant offensive players for this football team, will be out this week. Now, last week against the Raiders, you don't have Jayden, you don't have Noah, you don't have John, but the new addition here is Terry McLaurin, and I think that's a pretty significant miss for the Commanders' passing game here, because I think it's really going to require Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, or both to step up into pretty big roles for this offense, because Deebo Samuel, for as good as he is for the role that the Commanders need him to play, is somebody that's kind of a gadget piece, an early down screen threat, a pre-snap motion piece, a kickoff return man. He does that extremely well. What he's not is like a true alpha number one receiver where he's going to, route up somebody man to man and consistently win. So, that's the guy that Terry McLaurin is for this offense. And we've been seeing him get a lot of attention through the first 3 weeks of the season. It's led to maybe not the target share that we expect or want from a guy like Terry McLaurin, who just got that massive new contract from the team. Now he's just not going to be out there entirely. And honestly, this injury that's being designated as a quad, but Ian Rappaport from NFL Network said is more of a hip flexor type of an issue. He can't really run right now. He hasn't practiced all week. This kind of feels to me like it might be a multiple week kind of thing for Terry McLaurin, and obviously we hope that next week he's able to go and he's going to be able to practice and do all those things and be back and 100% ready to go. But I think this will be a big week for Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane to show what they can do as legitimate wide receivers. Are they ready to be starting caliber players for this football team? They're going to have the opportunity to prove that. The Atlanta corners are not fantastic. We'll talk about that here towards the end of the show. But if Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, do not show up, and McLaurin's going to be out for a little while, I think we might be looking at the Commanders adding another receiver via free agency, or maybe even trade early next week to try and bolster this group. Especially, like I said, if McLaurin is going to have to miss a little bit of time outside of this week. But obviously, Jayden Daniels being out, Jayden says he feels fine. Apparently he was trying to get the team to clear him to play and all these different things, but he didn't practice today, and the medical staff wants to play it safe with him. And honestly, I'm okay with that. We don't want Jayden Daniels to re-aggravate an injury, and then it's multiple weeks that he's out, and he's just not able to go. We want Jayden Daniels to be 100% fully ready to go when he gets back, especially because you got a guy in Marcus Mariota who is absolutely capable of operating this offense effectively while he's out. I will also say that John Bates, not having him again could be significant. He's your blocking tight end. This team does like to go to a lot of 12 personnel looks, where they have a tight end in there to block, and Bates is one of the best in football at that. That's why he got a contract extension with the team this offseason. So I thought Ben Sinnott and Colson Yankoff did a decent job last week against the Raiders, but certainly, once again, it's going to be a challenge here without John Bates out there. Especially because now you add Terry McLaurin being out to the equation as well, which completely changes the landscape for this offensive skill group, at least in my opinion. In terms of the ways that it's going to affect the offensive game plan, all these injuries, I think we can probably expect a little bit more 12 and 13 personnel this week, which is 2 and 3 tight end sets. See Ben Sinnott out there, see Colson Yankoff a little bit. Of course, we get a full workload from Zach Ertz as well. But also, like I said, you're going to be asking your young receivers that you have spent pretty high draft picks on recently, Luke McCaffrey and Jalen Lane, to be able to have good games, particularly Lane, because I think, especially early on in this game, the Falcons are going to be testing just how much separation and how good and how explosive this wide receiver trio of Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane can truly be against them. So I think we're going to see a lot of press. We're going to see possibly a lot of man to start this football game. And the guy that can kind of get them out of that, in my opinion, is Jalen Lane, because he's got the speed to win deep and really take the top off the defense. And if they play super aggressively, if they come out playing a lot of cover zero, and these sorts of things, Marcus Mariota needs to get the ball to Jalen Lane on a post route or on a streak, and Jalen's going to have to get open and catch the football. He didn't do that last week on a deep ball that could have been a touchdown versus the Raiders. So these two young guys, man, it's their time to shine. It's their time to show that they belong in the National Football League and that they can be contributors to this team if and when Terry McLaurin is not available. So if they can't do that, I think that we can be looking at this team potentially making a move at wide receiver next week, try and add to the group. But yeah, man, those guys really need to step up. And then also, I would expect a lot of running the football from the Washington Commanders this week. Not only is Marcus Mariota more than capable of running the football himself, but certainly you got a trio of running backs that are expected to play this week. Jacory Croskey-Merritt is technically listed as questionable on the injury report this week, but he's expected to go. His knee injury is considered minor. And then you've also got Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez Jr. Both guys showed that they're more than capable of carrying a portion of the load in the run game. So, you're going to be relying a lot on this offensive line to play just as well, if not better, than what they played last week. It's going to be the same five. It's going to be Laramie Tunsil, Chris Paul, Tyler Biadasz, Andrew Wiley, and then Josh Conley Jr. So hopefully all five of those guys can play as well as they did last week, as they certainly look good against the Raiders. Then hopefully the three running backs that you have on this team can be able to exploit some open rushing lanes, those sorts of things. Hopefully Ben Sinnott can show what he can do as a blocker, and hopefully Marcus Mariota can find some open receivers, and hopefully these receivers get open. It's just, there's a lot of unknowns with this football team right now as it stands. Lots of injuries on both sides of the ball as we sit here today. And, without Jayden Daniels, without Terry McLaurin, two of probably your most impactful offensive players on your entire team out, and then you have two other starters, one other at receiver and then another at tight end. It's just, it creates a lot of question marks, especially against a Falcons team and a defense that has shown some good things. They're coming off a tough week, both offensively and defensively, against the Carolina Panthers, but they're a hungry football team right now, and their head coach Raheem Morris is certainly fighting for his job in Atlanta this season. So they're going to have to come out ready to play and try to get Marcus Mariota an awesome revenge win against the team that really discarded him. Now, obviously, that previous regime with Arthur Smith is no longer here in Atlanta, but, just listening to the Atlanta radio hosts and personalities throughout the week, their worst nightmare is Marcus Mariota coming into their building, somebody that they have absolutely trashed over the last several seasons, and beating them, especially because, definitely you can make an argument that the Falcons should win this football game. They've got more of their players, especially on offense, available to them. They're home, all these different things. And, the Commanders have their best receiving weapon out. They have their star quarterback out. They've got multiple players on defense out. They've got a lot of pieces missing this week. So the worst case scenario for these Falcons fans and these radio people that have been trashing Marcus Mariota is Mariota goes in there in a game that he should technically lose and come out with the victory. So I'm going to have my popcorn ready on Sunday, guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing Marcus Mariota in this kind of environment, in a game where maybe, this team won't be favored to win on the road, versus a team that's healthier than the Commanders are and, with limited help around him, and go out there and ball out. That would be the best case scenario for him, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he takes this opportunity to go up against his former team that I'm sure he's got some bad blood with. Speaking of the Atlanta Falcons, their injury report for the most part is pretty clean. The one starter outside of the guys that are out for an extended period of time, Troy Anderson and Caleb McGarry, both of those guys are on IR, but A.J.Terrell, who hurt his hamstring last week, it will be out this week as well. So I guess that kind of evens out a little bit, where you got Terry McLaurin out this week. the number one receiver for the Commanders, but on the other side, the Falcons are missing their number one cover corner. So it's going to be Mike Hughes and D. Alford on the outside with Billy Bowman Jr. in the slot. I would say if they want to play man coverage, the outside is going to be the things that definitely get exposed a little bit. And, Debo and Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey are going to have to take advantage of that if they're going to win on Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see what the defensive game plan is from Jeff Ulbrich, Raheem Morris, and that Falcons defensive coaching staff with the injuries to the Commanders' skill positions and, of course, the Jayden Daniels as well. But I'm just super intrigued by this matchup, guys, because of Marcus Mariota, his previous relationship with Atlanta, how he's really been stellar to this point in his Commanders' career. If I'm being completely honest with you, the reason why we're so comfortable with Mariota as this team's starting quarterback when Jayden gets hurt is because, honestly, when Mariota's been in there, it hasn't really skipped a beat. This offense is still scoring like 30 points a game. They're still doing everything they want to do schematically. There doesn't feel like there's any limitations on the offense when he's in there. But now, because he's got some of this adversity with some of the skill position players being out, and some defensive injuries as well, some new players coming in on defense, them being Preston Smith and Darnell Savage. There's going to be some pretty big question marks surrounding the Washington Commanders this weekend. But man, I'm excited to see how Marcus Mariota handles that adversity. If he can still play at the high level that he's been playing at despite that adversity, if he can go into Atlanta this week and beat these guys and play really well and put up close to 30 points with this supporting cast that he's got here in Washington with all these young players and kind of a makeshift offensive line and all these different things, I think he might start being seen as like a potential bridge quarterback option in the future for an NFL franchise, which would be great news for him, really. He's worked really hard. He's a good guy, and to see him have success this weekend would really bring a smile to my face, guys. So we're going to be going live on Sunday around kickoff, 1 p.m. Eastern time, live play-by-play followed by post-game coverage of Commanders versus Falcons. If you want to watch this game along with us, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Join us on Sunday around kickoff here on this channel for free for the largest Commanders watch party anywhere on the YouTube platform. That'll be it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for stopping by. Until next time, guys, go raise some hail.